At my grandmother's funeral, my aunt yelled over the casket, I was her favorite. She told me I deserved everything. As the pastor tried to continue the service, she pushed past him, holding up a fake will and screaming, I'm the heir. Not these ungrateful leeches. When I calmly pointed out that the real will had already been read, she spun on me and screeched, you forged it, I should call the police right now. I thought someone would step in instead. Half my family started shouting in agreement with her. I realized then that this was no longer about grief, it was war, and I would need to fight back in ways I never thought I could. Let me start by saying I never expected to be that guy, the one who ends up in a screaming match at a funeral. But here we are. This happened in February, in Columbus, Ohio. My grandma, Alma, passed after a long fight with lung disease. She was 84. She raised me since I was 11 when my dad drank himself into an early grave and my mom disappeared into drugs and chaos. Alma was all I had for most of my life. She taught me everything. How to fix a faucet. How to drive. How to hold your head up when people try to break you. She was strict, but she loved hard. My Aunt Diane is Alma's oldest daughter. She hasn't lifted a finger to help Grandma in years. She only called when she wanted money. If you talked to her for 10 minutes, you'd hear about her successful real estate investments, her designer handbags, and how everyone else in the family was lazy or jealous. We knew she'd show up at the funeral. We didn't know she'd turn it into a circus. So we're in the funeral home. It's cold outside. The kind of cold that cuts through your coat and makes your fingers go stiff. I was sitting in the front row next to Grandma's sister and her old church friend. Pastor Green was giving a speech, saying the usual things. I was just trying to keep it together, honestly. Then Diane stands up. She didn't just stand. She pushed her chair back like she wanted everyone to look. And they did. She had on this bright red coat, hair blown out like she was going to a pageant, and these tacky oversized sunglasses she refused to take off. She walked up to the casket, turned toward the room, and shouted, I was her favorite. She told me I deserved everything. Everyone went quiet. Pastor Green tried to keep speaking, but she shoved past him and pulled a folded paper out of her purse. I'm the heir, she screamed. Not these ungrateful leeches. She held up the paper like it was a golden ticket. I knew what it was, a fake will. Grandma had a real one drawn up last year, notarized and signed, with my lawyer present. She left most of the estate to me, some to charity, and small portions to a few family members, not including Diane. That had been settled. I stood up. Diane, the will was already read. You weren't in it. You know that. She turned to me so fast I thought she might fall. Her face twisted, like she was holding in something feral. You forged it. You little bastard. You always thought you were better than everyone. I should call the police right now. I didn't flinch. Call them. That's when the room exploded. My cousin Brianna, her daughter, yelled, he probably did forge it. He's been mooching off Grandma since he was a kid. Uncle Charles chimed in from the back. Where's the proof that's the real will, huh? I looked around and realized half the room was either yelling or nodding along. People I grew up with. People Grandma helped, fed, gave rides to appointments. That was the moment it hit me. This wasn't grief anymore. This wasn't family. This was war. And if they wanted to turn on me, I wasn't going to just take it. The funeral director tried to step in, tried to calm things down, but Diane wouldn't stop waving that paper around like it was gospel. This is her real will. She signed it after that little snake got in her head. Someone in the back shouted, let's see it then. She shoved it toward them, but wouldn't let go. Probably because even from 10 feet away, I could see the date on it was wrong. Grandma had been in the hospital the day it was supposedly signed, and I had the records to prove it. I have the official will, I said loudly. Signed. Notarized. Filed with the estate attorney. You all were notified weeks ago. You shut your mouth, you liar. Diane screamed. You've always been a little manipulator. You mean like you? You show up once a year begging for money and suddenly now you're the chosen one? That shut her up for a second, but only because she was boiling. I could see it in her face. Then came the next twist. I talked to her the night before she died, she spat. She told me she regretted everything. That she wanted to change the will. She couldn't speak the last 3 days, I said calmly. She was on a ventilator. Diane blinked. That lie had come too fast. But then my cousin Kyle stood up. We need to contest the will. She's right. Something doesn't feel right. There it was. The start of a mutiny. People looking for their slice. Maybe they didn't believe Diane, maybe they didn't even like her, but they smelled blood. And money makes people sick in the head. I kept my mouth shut during the rest of the service, if you could still call it that. Grandma deserved better, but I wasn't going to let them drag her legacy through more filth that day. After the casket was lowered, I didn't stick around for the half-hearted apologies and fake hugs. I got in my car and drove straight to the attorney's office. Get ready, I told him. It's about to get ugly. What they didn't know was, I'd prepared for this. Grandma knew how Diane operated. She'd left more than a will. She'd left me a plan. A box, locked, with a letter. And recordings. Diane had tried to pull this stunt once before, years ago, tried to trick Grandma into signing something. That time, she'd gotten caught. But this time, Grandma had been ready. Inside the box were recorded conversations. One from 2 months ago. Diane had come to the house. Tried again. Grandma didn't sign, but she kept the audio. You think I won't just make it look like you said yes? Diane said on tape. You'll be dead soon anyway. I had all of it. And I wasn't going to court. Not yet. First, I was going to make sure Diane's name was dirt. I was going to do it slow, smart, and public. She wanted war. I had ammo she didn't even know existed. The day after the funeral, I met with my grandma's estate attorney, Martin Shore. He was an old guy, sharp as a razor, the kind who had a filing system for everything and remembered every case he'd ever touched. I told him what happened. He didn't look surprised. She always said that side of the family would come sniffing around when she passed, he said, opening a drawer. That's why she left instructions for what to do if they tried to challenge the will. I handed him the recordings. He listened to the first one with a slow nod. This is solid. Very solid, he said. But if you want to go nuclear, we'll need more than just this. I asked what he meant. You want to stop her? You'll need to expose everything. Publicly. He leaned back. And you're going to have to get your hands a little dirty. I didn't flinch. By the end of the week, Diane had lawyered up. She filed paperwork contesting the will, claiming undue influence, elder abuse, and forgery. She even tried to say Grandma had dementia, which would have been news to her doctors and her church friends, all of whom had spoken to her days before she was admitted to the hospital. I expected the legal battle. What I didn't expect was how fast she turned the rest of the family against me. Cousins who used to come over every Christmas. Cold. Aunt Sheila. Silent. Even a few of Grandma's old neighbors started acting weird. Diane was spreading lies that I had isolated Grandma, forced her to change her will, even manipulated her into cutting everyone out. I couldn't take it. I needed to fight back. So I did something Diane never would have expected. I showed up at the church. Pastor Green let me speak after service. I told everyone what had happened at the funeral. I played the recordings. Her voice, right there over the speakers. You'll be dead soon anyway. No one's going to believe you. You owe me. You always did. There were gasps. People stood in the back, covering their mouths. That day, I got calls from 5 different family members who'd taken Diane's side. All of them backpedaling. And I wasn't done. I hired a private investigator. His name was Doug. Ex-cop, looked like he chewed nails for breakfast. I gave him one job: dig into Diane's finances. What he found? Fraud. False real estate claims. Shell companies that didn't exist. Loans in her boyfriend's name. She'd taken out credit in her daughter's name, racked up $17,000 in debt. IRS wasn't far behind. And then came the big one: she tried to coerce Grandma into signing over her house twice. Once last year, once 3 months ago. Grandma had made a police report, but didn't press charges because, as she told the officer, she's still my daughter. Doug got the report. The officer remembered the call. Remembered Grandma. Everything was falling into place. I wasn't going to court anymore. I was going to war on her turf. Public shame. Legal heat. And soon prison. She wanted to scream at a funeral. I was going to make sure she had plenty to cry about in court. I waited until the court date to unleash everything. The courtroom was full. Diane came in looking smug, dressed like she was going to a damn fashion show. Her lawyer looked bored, probably thought this would be a quick win. She sat across from me like she already owned the house, the accounts, everything. She didn't know what was coming. The judge asked if there were any materials to present. My lawyer stood and handed over the folder. The audio recordings. The notarized will. Grandma's full medical records showing no signs of dementia. The police report from the failed house signing. And then Doug, our private investigator, stood up. I have evidence of fraudulent financial behavior, including an attempt to steal the decedent's property while she was alive. The room went quiet. Dead quiet. Diane laughed. Are you serious? The judge wasn't laughing. It took 1 hour. The will was upheld. Diane's claim dismissed with prejudice, meaning she couldn't bring it back. But that wasn't the end. The judge ordered an investigation into the financial fraud and subpoenaed her banking records. That's when the panic started. She stood up in court, screaming. This is a setup. He's lying. He forged everything. Security walked her out. 3 weeks later, the house she bragged about. Raided. IRS opened a case. Credit card companies filed fraud claims. And her own daughter, the one she put debt in, filed charges too. The boyfriend? Turned on her instantly. She was arrested for financial fraud, identity theft, and elder coercion. 3 felonies. 2 years later, she took a plea deal for 7 years in state prison. And the family? The same people who screamed at me at the funeral? Quiet. Some apologized. Most didn't. But they all stayed away after that. The damage was done. I wish I could say I walked away clean. But I didn't. Grandma asked me not to destroy the family, no matter what happened. In her final letter to me, she wrote, "Let them go, Jake. Don't become what they are." But I did destroy them. And I'd do it again. Because when someone disrespects the one person who saved your life, who gave you everything they had, you don't turn the other cheek. You show them exactly what it means to be cut out. For good.